Game week 13, Sun Dream Team. So these are my top players to target. It's a Premier League double game week with every Premier League side playing twice. But don't get caught out because it's a Friday deadline, 6:30 p.m. We've got Brighton versus Southampton in that first fixture. And where it is a Premier League double game week, Brighton might just be one of the teams that we want to target for this game week. So all teams, Premier League double. City, no wins in 6, 5 losses in that time as well. It just goes from bad to worse. It looked like they were going to turn things around against Feyenoord, but conceded 3 late goals in that game. So we are going to cover them, but it's probably not going to be to talk about targeting the players in this week. So Liverpool away, Forest at home. This fixture ticker is from ffstuff.co.uk. You can look at it yourself for free over at ffstuff.co.uk. Arsenal, 2 impressive wins this week. So coming back from the international break and looking much better now with Ødegaard back in the team. They've got a really nice fixture run coming up with West Ham, Man United, Fulham, Monaco, Everton, Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup, Crystal Palace again in the Prem, and Ipswich. So I think they're going to be quite popular, obviously for Saka, but with an extra attacker maybe thrown in the mix, and even defence are now looking good. So Arsenal, I'm going to spend some time on them. Liverpool, hard on paper. So Man City at home, Newcastle away. But we've obviously seen Man City's recent form. We saw Newcastle lose on Monday. And Liverpool have just beat Real Madrid as well at home. So really are the form team. We'll spend some time looking at Liverpool. United, we've still got to see a bit more from them. So this is being recorded on Thursday before the Europa League matches and Europa League conference matches. So we still will get to see what Amorim does in his second match in charge. But it was a little bit underwhelming against Ipswich. So we'll have a little look at them. But Everton, good. Arsenal, pretty bad fixture. Villa, so tough match against Chelsea, but then I'd probably say that the Brentford fixture looks quite good on paper. But Southampton at home in game week 14 looks quite good. So maybe one we want to just keep an eye on this week to maybe then move next week. Spurs have got good fixtures and obviously had a really good result against Man City. They've got Fulham at home and Bournemouth away, which look okay. But I mean, Bournemouth away has been a pretty tough fixture recently. Chelsea, great fixtures. So this could be a first opportunity to target Cole Palmer in a Premier League double game week. A few of us tried to target him for a Carabao Cup double game week earlier in the season, but it didn't happen. He wasn't involved in that one. So maybe this will be the first chance to get 2 matches in a week from Cole Palmer. They've got Aston Villa at home, who have been, had written down previously, they'd been conceding a lot of goals. Obviously, they then went to keep a clean sheet against Juve. So maybe they'll take a little bit of confidence into that, but I still back Chelsea to put some goals past Villa. And then Southampton away, that looks like one of the best fixtures of the game week. So I think Chelsea really do have a nice double this week, and Palmer will be of interest. Then I've thrown a few sort of differential sides in there, ones that we might not target every week, but where it is a Premier League double, these teams could be okay. So probably a little bit of a surprise package, West Ham. So Arsenal at home and then Leicester away. Obviously, the Arsenal fixture is going to be a tough one. But after that, they've gone a little bit of a run. So Leicester away, maybe it'll be a bit tougher now. They've got Ruud van Nistelrooy in charge, so maybe a new manager bounce. But on paper, that's a nice fixture. They just had a nice result against Newcastle as well, West Ham. Bowen's in good form. So we'll have a little look at West Ham. Wolves, they've really started to turn things around, and they now have Bournemouth at home and Everton away, which looks like a really nice double game week. So Wolves are going to be of interest. And then that run carries on for quite a while. So West Ham away, Ipswich home, Leicester away, and Man United home. Brighton, good fixtures, also in good form at the moment. So they've got Southampton at home on that Friday night, then Fulham away, followed by Leicester, Crystal Palace, West Ham away, and then Brentford at home. So it continues for quite a while, this nice fixture run for Brighton. And then Brentford, so okay fixtures, I'd say. Leicester at home looks good. And then Aston Villa, who I said were conceding goals, but then did keep a clean sheet last night. But I think on paper, looks okay for Brentford. Their form has just dipped slightly, I think. Looking at longer term planning, so over the next 4 game weeks, the reason that some non-European sides are starting to become of interest is because we've got obviously a double game week for all teams in game week 13. We also have a double game week for all teams in game week 16, Premier League double. Between that, we have our final, technically the final European double until game week 20. So European Champions League, Europa League, and Europa League Conference. And then game week 15, it's Premier League and Carabao Cup. We do actually just have one match thrown in there for Chelsea in Europa Conference League in that Carabao Cup week as well. So technically that's the last European double game week, but all of the other teams are having their last one in game week 14, and it doesn't come back until game week 20. So levels the playing field a little bit, not just European teams of interest. We've got the Carabao Cup now thrown in, and then everyone's going to be on a level playing field sort of over the sort of Christmas period. So that's why we can start to maybe look at some teams or players from other teams here. So over the next 4 game weeks, Premier League double this week, final European double game week in game week 14, game week 15, Carabao Cup quarterfinals, plus a European double for Chelsea. And then game week 16, a Premier League double again. So loads of fixtures taking place over this period. The teams that have the most fixtures over this period, so game week 13 to game week 16, will be Arsenal, Liverpool, United, Spurs, and Chelsea. They play the maximum amount of fixtures. They will have double game weeks in every single week. Obviously, it doesn't mean every player is going to play twice, because Carabao Cup, there could be rotation. Some of the teams in Europe, there's rotation, but they do on paper have the most fixtures in this run. They're all in European football. They're all in Europe, and they all have Carabao Cup. Except Chelsea, who have 2 lots of European football instead of the Carabao Cup. Teams with 7 fixtures include City and Aston Villa. So they'll have their European doubles, but they don't have the Carabao Cup fixtures. So these two will double in 13, double in 14, have just a single in 15, and then double again in 16. There are some teams outside of Europe who have 7 fixtures, and that's teams that have a Carabao Cup but aren't in Europe. So Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Brentford, they all have a single game week in game week 14, but then they double in 15 when they have the Carabao Cup. So for example, Newcastle look pretty good for that week, Leicester at home and Brentford at home. And then after that, we've just got the teams that have 6 fixtures, which is basically everyone else. So double game week in 13 for that Prem double. Game week 16, they'll have the Prem double, but between that, 14 and 15 will both be singles. So you can make the decision if you, for example, want to go for a Brighton player this week for their nice Prem double. You could either hold them the whole way through and get 6 fixtures out of them. They're probably likely to play all of them. Or you can target the double this week, move them on for a European double, a Carabao Cup double, and then come back in game week 16. I think that's the 2 sort of directions that we could go to target the maximum fixtures. But ffstuff.co.uk, you can have a little look at this yourself. 11afI.com, so looking at predicted goals and predicted clean sheets. So this is a free, or the free version of 11afI.com you can have a little look at. Obviously, we're looking at match day 13 and match day 14. They're separate on FPL, so this goes off the FPL game weeks, but obviously it's a double game week in Dream Team. So Brighton are projected to score the most goals in game week 13 for their fixture on Friday against Southampton. So they're top with 2.26, followed by Spurs after that. So their home fixture against Fulham, I believe it is, they have been projected 2.11. Then Brentford, with their home fixture against Leicester, are there at 2.07. Chelsea, 2.06 in their home game against Aston Villa. And then Arsenal are the next, but they are below 2. So their fixture against West Ham at the weekend, they're projected 1.87. So as you can see, quite a few different teams there in the goal projection. So if you're liking the look of Brighton this week, understandable, because they are projected to score the most goals. Game week 14 looks a bit more normal. Man City are at the top of the list, so they've got their home match against Nottingham Forest, projected 2.48 in that one. And I was at the Arsenal Forest game last weekend, and yeah, was a little bit surprised by Forest. I thought they were going to be a little bit better than what they were. So maybe that could be the game that Man City come back. But yeah, remains to be seen yet. Arsenal are then there with 2.24 2-2. So they've got their match against Manchester United. So projected to score more goals in that Manchester United game than they are in the West Ham fixture. You've got Chelsea 2.09, and that's against Southampton away. So again, Cole Palmer looks good for that one. Maybe you've got Jackson in your team already. They could be a team to target then. And then just under 2, we've got Aston Villa in their second fixture at home to Brentford. So surprising to see Liverpool so low down on the list in both game weeks. So game week 13, they're all the way down in 8th with 1.63. But of course, they're against Manchester City. Could just be a good fixture though at this current time. And then 5th on the projections for game week, the second game of game week 13. So they've got 1.81 in that away match against Newcastle. Projected clean sheets. So top of the list this week, or for the first fixture of game week 13, is Arsenal with 42% chance of keeping a clean sheet in that match against West Ham. Brighton, again, they're favoured in that first fixture. They're favoured for goals and clean sheets. So if you're looking for a few budget picks in defence, Estupinian springs to mind. He could be an option. And then Nottingham Forest, I got rid of them last week because they had that game against Arsenal, understandably. But they have Ipswich at home in their first fixture. So they're actually right up there on the ticker for clean sheets, 38% against Ipswich. Brentford there with 35, and Man United with 35 as well. Because Liverpool and Man City playing each other in that first fixture, they're both quite a way down the list. And then the second fixture of game week 13. So Man City actually lead the way for clean sheets, which I don't know if these projections are slow to update or whether they just believe this Man City run cannot continue. They're up there at 48% chance of keeping a clean sheet for Man City. So maybe this is the fixture where they finally turn it around at the back. Arsenal in second for clean sheets against Manchester United. So 45%. So Arsenal looking like probably the best defence target this week. So top of the list for the first fixture, and then second for the second fixture. It's then pretty close. Everton in third, 36%, and Chelsea 32%. If you found that useful, please do leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and then 11afire.com and ffstuff.co.uk. There'll be links in the description below for those websites. On to some teams and players to target then for game week 13. So Arsenal to start things off, West Ham away, Man United at home. Really good results this week. So the 3-0 clean sheet victory against Forest at home, and then the 5-1 really impressive win, Sporting away. So maximum fixtures, I said earlier as well, between game week 13 and game week 16. It's double game weeks the whole way through. Obviously, that Crystal Palace Carabao Cup match, I'd expect to see a fair bit of rotation. But other than that, you'd imagine it would be full strength. It was a surprising lineup for the Forest match. Quite a lot of rotation. Martinelli owners would have been disappointed. He was benched. You also had Thomas Partey and Declan Rice benched. Not dream team, real assets. But yeah, again, a surprise. Yeah, Jorginho starting, and even Kai Havertz was on the bench, an unused sub in that game. So I think after seeing a lot of the lineups over the weekend, a lot of teams did seem to rotate, I guess, due to the international break. But Saka was in the team, playing on the right-hand side. It was a doubt whether or not he would play. He did go on to play and he got a goal and an assist in the Forest game, and a goal and an assist in the Sporting game as well. So 40 points for the game week. And he looks really back to his best now with Odegaard playing in that sort of right-hand pocket, feeding him, but also connecting really well with Yuri Timber, who we're going to talk about. Saka, now 6 goals, 10 assists from 17 matches. So 16 attacking returns from 17 games now for Saka. He really is on it. Really convincing penalty as well against Sporting. I always thought his penalties always do look a little bit dodgy, but he smashed this one away. I think he's a must for this week, personally. Just seems to do really well. And the fixtures are great as well. Odegaard, I'm still not sure where I stand with Odegaard. So actual performance and playing ability and what he brings to the team, fantastic. Assists in all 3 of his starts since returning from injury. So that plays into the dream team hands a bit more. But that's the bit I'm still not quite sure on. Is 5.1 million a good price for Odegaard? And how worth it is he when it comes to Dream Team points? I've got no questions about how good he is for Arsenal and how important he is for Arsenal. Just whether or not he's value at 5.1 million. It does feel high to me, but 7.3 average over the last 3 games, obviously with a return in all of them and a now starter. But I would just love to see a few more goals in there for Ødegaard, but maybe they'll come. Kai Havertz, so surprise benching against Forest. I don't think I've got any concern going forward. I guess this was just a rest after the international break. Goal, 10 points in the Sporting game, 4.5 million. But this is what I mean about the Ødegaard thing. So Havertz gets 10 points for scoring. Ødegaard was by far the best player on the pitch, gets 7 points for the assists. So that's why I feel like it's important that Ødegaard starts to get a few more goals in there. I really like the look of Havertz, but maybe it's one to wait until game week 14, get him for that Champions League double instead of Fulham and Monaco. Martinelli was on the bench for Forest, so if you did own, you would have been disappointed. I guess, again, this is because he was away with Brazil. But he came back in for the Sporting game and got his goal. So came away with 9 points in that one. There's back-to-back goals now for him as well in the games that he's been involved in. So his confidence is up. 4.3 million. If you're looking for a midfielder, it's not bad, but I think I'd prioritise getting Saka in. And I think maybe Havertz, I think, personally. Urin Timber, 3.7 million. So I think this is a really strong buy this week. So he was incredible in both games. That right-hand side for Arsenal looks fantastic with Saka on the right, Ødegaard just inside, and then Timber is getting forward quite a lot as well. I thought in some of the previous games with Ødegaard missing, it seemed like we were doing a lot of the left, like Martinelli was heavily involved. I think it was in the Inter match. Saka wasn't really getting much of the action on the other side, but since Ødegaard's come back, it's all going down that right side, and Timber is heavily involved in that. He'll get a nice price rise. He had a goal disallowed in the Forest match and then got his assist in the Sporting match as well. So I really like Timber for this game week. Calafiori, 3.9 million, again, is a fine option. Started both matches. The fixtures are good, but I mean, if you can get Timber for 0.2 less, I think I would do that. I think the real differential is going to be who gets more than one defender in from Arsenal ahead of the rest of the pack. Next up is Liverpool. So game week 13, the fixtures don't actually look the best, but they are the informed side. I think I saw that they'd won 17 out of 19 matches since Arne Slot took charge. But game week 14 onwards does look pretty nice. Everton, Girona, Fulham, Southampton, Spurs and Leicester. But back to game week 13, Man City and Newcastle, despite looking like a terrible pairing on paper, City are now looking poor. Newcastle had a pretty poor result Monday. And then Liverpool are just coming through every single test they've had so far. So beating Real Madrid last night. So wouldn't want to put you off Liverpool that much. Salah, obviously, 17-point haul against Southampton. I felt a bit like that had been gifted, but maybe just because I captained Haaland this week. A penalty and a big mistake from McCarthy, getting him the goal and 2 goals in that one. And then your last night against Real Madrid, you would have been disappointed if you captained him because he had a penalty miss and came away with just a 1 point in that match for a bonus point. But I think Haaland owners probably did feel a little bit relieved by that. It could have been more. With the sort of second attacker position, I still stand in the same place. I just can't justify the sort of Gakpo-Diaz decision over a more certain double game week player this week. You had Darwin get back-to-back starts, but with Gakpo and Diaz, they just keep rotating, and while they get attacking returns, when the likes of Cunha are there, João Pedro are there, and you expect them to get 2 starts, I can't have one of Diaz or Gakpo over them this game week. So I'm going to pass on them, but I still think Salah is a really good pick. The question with Salah will be this week is, do you carry on captaining him or do you go elsewhere with the armband? You'd expect that he could probably return against Manchester City and Newcastle in the form that they're in, but there are some real good other options we'll talk about later in the episode. Defense doesn't quite feel right targeting with City and Newcastle, despite the form. But that Real Madrid clean sheet was quite promising. Trent was missing from the Premier League match, but made the bench for Real Madrid. So you'd expect that he is going to come back in soon. But Connor Bradley done brilliantly. So 14 points, got the assist, and obviously a clean sheet in this match. So whether or not Slot shows him a little bit of loyalty, we'll have to see. The Kelleher versus Alisson situation is pretty horrible because I imagine, well, the news come out that Alisson was going to miss this game week. So I think people may have held on. But if you did go early because the fixtures looked a bit tough with that Real Madrid fixture, you would have been massively disappointed because Kelleher has absolutely smashed it this week. 2 penalty saves, which is unheard of in the same game week. So 2.6 million this week. He's come away with 17 points. Obviously, the Southampton one was a joke because he saved the penalty and then the rebound's gone in, but he's still come away with the save points. Well, obviously, pen save and adds to the normal save points as well. And then yesterday against Real Madrid, he's got the clean sheet. And it was actually a really good penalty save against Mbappe. So we'll give him that one. The question is going to be what happens. Is Alisson going to come back in for this next week? But yeah, I guess we don't know. But from what Slot said last game week, you'd imagine that he is going to tell us whether or not Alisson is going to be starting in that Man City match. But I mean, Kelleher couldn't have done much more to keep that space. Connor Bradley, I mentioned him. So despite doing well, there's going to be the risk now that Trent is going to come back in. And also, Konate did limp off at the end. I think got a nasty tackle from Endrick from Real Madrid. So that might be a little bit concerning. Maybe we get another budget option appearing in that centre-back position, maybe Kwanzaa. But I think a few of us got stung by him earlier in the season. So we might have to be a wait and see. 4 yellow cards for Konate as well. So I definitely wouldn't be targeting Konate at the minute. But yeah, Liverpool defence may be of interest despite the horrible fixtures this week. Man City, so what on earth do we do with them? So no wins in 6, 5 losses before the Feyenoord game. And obviously it looked like they turned it around for the Feyenoord game, apart from those late 3 goals conceded. Liverpool next away at Anfield, probably the worst possible fixture they could get. You'd have to say you don't see a clean sheet there, and you probably see a Liverpool win now. But then Forest at home, maybe that is the fixture to finally put an end to all of this nonsense. Forest weren't great against Arsenal, and I do think this will be the game that City eventually do turn it around. But then after that, it's away Crystal Palace, away Juve, 2 fairly tough places to go. Man United at home in the big derby match, and in game week 16, Villa away, Everton at home. So remains to be seen when City are going to return to their normal best. But Haaland, 18 points, brace against Feyenoord, 22 points for the game week. Did end up being a decent captain pick for his 2 goals against Feyenoord. He was unlucky again in the Spurs match, hitting the crossbar. I honestly don't think he's been that bad. It just feels sort of multiplied by the form that City have been in. Just things haven't quite been going in for him, but maybe these 2 goals will get him back on track. I will still be holding him. I know in a lot of other fantasy formats, people are removing him. I don't think Dream Team is one of the ones to do that in. But will you captain him this week? I don't think you will. Liverpool away, I wouldn't really back him for that one. Nottingham Forest, though, does have the potential to get ugly. So he's obviously going to be up there as a pick, but I do think you can go against him for the captaincy this week. Foden, 6.1. I know a lot of people have been a bit disappointed with him recently, to 10 points this week. He did get 11 player performance marks in that Feyenoord one, so he was just 1 mark away from getting maximum bonus. But it's the 3 goals, 2 assists this season, which has let him down, I think. So by comparison, so I was saying that I wasn't that keen on Ødegaard, for example, at 5.1, thinking that he was a little bit pricey. Foden is 6.1 and currently has just the 5 attacking returns. I do think that Foden has got to start getting these attacking returns soon to justify the price he's at. He's obviously got a lot of credit in the bank after last season's points tally and attacking returns tally. that patience will start to run out at that price point. It's probably going to get another price drop again this week. But one thing I would say about Foden is he has had 8 starts in a row now. One of the question marks when he first came back was, is he going to be playing twice a week? And he definitely is at the moment. Nunes got an assist, 10 points, but I stand by that. I'm not really interested in any other City attackers at the moment. Probably just Foden and Haaland for me. KDB, 68th minute sub. Like, when is he going to go back to starting? It just seems like they're trying to fix that sort of Rodri hole at the moment, and getting KDB back into starting isn't quite the priority or the answer. So yeah, KDB still not on the menu at the moment. What to do with Vardiol is going to be a question for a lot of people. So City have now conceded 13 goals in 4 matches. Clean sheets, not looking likely in the Liverpool game as well. And Vardiol was at fault for quite a few of the goals against Feyenoord and Spurs. So he's got the attacking potential. We know that. He's had 3 goals already this season. And in both of these games, he's still got in decent attacking positions. But is he worth it when the clean sheets aren't looking that likely? I don't think it's a problem to hold on to Vardiol. But in this week where we kind of do want to throw a lot of value into some of these more exciting attackers, I do think that maybe you could sell him, downgrade to someone that's a decent option, maybe a Timber, maybe an Arsenal defender, and then spread that money into midfield. But I do stand by. I think that Vardiol, we're probably going to want him fairly soon if you do end up selling him. So I don't think there's a clear answer either way, but it's fair to say he has been a little bit disappointing. Manchester United, so I don't know what to take from this Ipswich match. So 1-1 against Ipswich. After 2 minutes, Rashford scoring that goal. It looked like they were back. Everyone was saying they were back, but then they just wasn't. Ipswich got back into the game, finished up 1-1, and it was, a little bit of a disappointing performance, I thought. But I'm unwilling to sort of make a decision on the basis of that game, because I felt like that lineup probably isn't the lineup they intends to play longer term. We'll have a better idea after tonight against Bodo Glimt. The lineup sort of felt a little bit like he was picking some of the players that he'd worked with over the international break. He didn't have much time. He didn't have the rest of the squad there. So I do expect that the squad is going to look a lot different in the coming weeks. So we'll see how they get on at Bodo. Bruno Fernandes, 6.4 million. So red hot form before Ipswich. A popular transfer in. Wanted to see how he'd done in this new role. And I think I want to see a bit more, because he wasn't quite as good as he has been in the previous matches. It's definitely a hold if you've got him in already. If you haven't got him, I'd see how Bodo Glimt goes tonight. And if it's not that convincing, I think possibly you could wait. It's Arsenal and Everton next week. Obviously, the Everton fixture looks good at home, but Arsenal away is a pretty tough one. So I think if he doesn't look convincing against Bodo tonight, I think if you don't have him, you could probably get away with waiting another week for a bit more information. Mazraoui at 4.1, so right centre-back role instead of that full-back role. Had the most touches and most passes in the game, so I think he's a big part of Amorim's plan. We don't know if that role change is down to having less centre-backs available, or whether he does see him as his sort of right-sided centre-back. But still got tackles and bonus, and I think he's still a fine buy. Dalot, playing left wing back, got 5 points, shot on target, tackle points, played the full 90. Luke Shaw did come back in and play 34 minutes, but he seemed to be sort of the left-sided centre-back. So maybe when Shaw gets back up to full fitness, he could be a threat on the sort of left wing back spot. But yeah, I think still we'll get more answers with time. So I think Dalot and Mazraoui, both still okay. We'll see how they get on tonight. Garnacho 4.2, 86 minutes in that game. 3 points would be disappointing, but if he ends up starting the Bodo match tonight and it looks like he's not going to get as much rotation as he was getting before, I'd be tempted to hold. So 6 goals, 5 assists for the season. And I still think if De Ligt gets a start this evening and looks like he's going to play twice a week, I think 3.2 million is still going to be really nice value. Downgrading from maybe a Dalot to De Ligt could let you do more out on the pitch by saving almost $1 million there. Rashford, I'd need to see more starts and better minutes before considering him as an option, despite getting his goal. Striker options elsewhere are just so much better, I think. Diallo, so 10 points. He's had double figures, 3 matches running. But I just think the fact that he's down as a striker, I've put centre forward down, I meant striker. The fact that he's down and listed as a striker, just I can't get on board with bringing him in just because it blocks someone off. And for a game week like this, where you are possibly looking at Pedro or Cunha or Havertz, someone like that, you don't want that slot taken up by someone that's playing a wing back position, despite the points he's getting and his nice price point. I think the striker spots are too valuable to have him in. If you're happy with your Haaland, your Salah, and not adding another striker, then maybe Diallo could be good value, but I'm not really feeling it at the moment. So Spurs 4, City 0. Obviously play Roma this evening as well. I did not see this result coming. Spurs are just so unpredictable at the minute. So they smash Villa, they lose to Ipswich, and then they smash Man City. So 2 good fixtures in Game Week 13. Fulham at home, Bournemouth away. But just what Spurs turn up, I just don't know. Maddison, 20-pointer, brace. I've seen a few people beating themselves up over taking Maddison out. I took him out a few game weeks ago, and I've got no problem with this. His minutes have just been all over the place. So we've got 6 minutes against Ipswich, a game where you'd think his sort of creative ability would have been best used. Surprising. 8 minutes against Villa. He came on and scored off the bench. So again, pretty lucky there to score in 8 minutes. 62 minutes against Palace, 45 against West Ham. The minutes have just not been there, and he looked out of favour. And then he's back in for what looked like their hardest match on paper, and he's absolutely smashed it. So whether or not that's to do with Bentancur now not being in the lineup, and that's an extra slot available in midfield, I'm not sure. Kulusevski went out to the right wing. Whatever happened, it worked. I still would just be hesitant to target him, but yeah, he's right up there now as one of the top players in the game. Surely he keeps his place, but it feels a risk. Porro as well. A lot of people might have took Porro out because the fixture did look bad. 4.4 million, 2 goals, 2 assists now for the season. A 15-point clean sheet and goal haul in this City game. I think you're unlucky if you're sold, but yeah, with the fixtures coming up, Fulham, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Southampton, Man United, Liverpool and Forest. I do think the fixtures look good for him. It's just whether or not you want to keep 4.4 on a player from a Spurs defence. Johnson benched, but still returned off the bench. Son got the assist, 3 goals, 6 assists, but an early sub again. I'm not that interested in either of these at the moment, despite the fixtures looking good. Solanke, if you kept hold of him, I took him out this week, but he got 8 points and an assist, so he's looking okay. But I think there's better options for the price. Kulusevski, 3 million, 7th assist of the season. He had a fantastic game again. Really, really good enabler. Probably going to get a small rise this week, but I am considering taking him out. So I'll do my team update at the end. You'll have a little look at that. But I think he's a perfectly fine hold in your team if he does a job at 3 million. Fraser Forster at 1.8. So Vicario broke his ankle apparently during the Man City game and played on. So fair play for that. Vicario getting a 10-point clean sheet and quite a lot of saves. But Fraser Forster could be the budget keeper to bail a lot of you out if you've got Kelleher and need to move him, or you're late moving Sells on, for example, or you're just looking for someone at a cheap price so you can get more outfield. I would have done Forster if I hadn't have already done Muric last week. But Fraser Forster, you'd imagine now he's going to play the Premier League double in Game Week 13 and playing the European fixtures as well. So I think Forster 1.8 million could be a way to go. Obviously, it doesn't look great, does it? But when you consider he's playing for a decent side, maybe not a decent defence, but Vicario's done well despite only having about 4 clean sheets this season. So I'm pretty sure Fraser Forster will do perfectly fine for 1.8 million, and it's just what it lets you do elsewhere. So I think that'll be a great move if you're looking to change your keeper. Aston Villa, so obviously after saying they've been conceding quite a lot and look good for the Chelsea match, keep that clean sheet against Juve, and some of these clean sheets they've kept have been ridiculous. So I'll put him at the bottom, but we're going to start with Emi Martinez. So how do you keep pulling these clean sheets out of the bag? His clean sheets this season have been Juventus, Bayern Munich, Man United, Bologna and Young Boys. So what's that? Juve, Bayern, Bologna, Young Boys. Most of the clean sheets coming in the Champions League in the the harder games that they're facing. Big game player. That being said, I'd still go for a cheaper keeper this week. So I don't think this is the best week for Aston Villa, but game week 14, they do have Southampton. So I think we want to keep an eye on them and maybe look for them next week. I think if you had Rodgers, you are unlucky to have a goal ruled out at the death, but he's now going to drop again. 2.8 currently, probably going to get to around 2.5 very soon. Tielemans, 5th assist of the season. He's still Mr. Consistent, looking really good. Missed a penalty though. We finally found out who the Villa penalty taker was. It's Tielemans, but he's now missed 3 of his last 5. So I think that debate's probably still going to carry on. Is he going to take the next one after this poor record? Watkins, 5.3, got his goal against Palace. But I just think for that price, there's cheaper options that are more in form at the moment. Digne, though, you'd have been annoyed because he didn't start the first fixture. And again, it looked like a lot of rotation, probably due to the international break. He's still looking really good. So against Juve last night, he took a free kick, hit the crossbar, still came away with 9 points. So I think if you've got Digne, you're probably going to hold him now for this week. Konsa did make the bench after being injured in the previous match, but Onana was still out. So you probably want to look to move him on. Obviously, pay attention to the press conferences. But yeah, Villa, I'm not massive on targeting this week. Chelsea, so I think they've got one of the best doubles for game week 13. So Villa, no wins in 7 now, I think it is. And I had said conceding goals. They were conceding goals up to the Juve game. And then Southampton away. I think these look really good for Chelsea. So the problem is, are Chelsea going to play their best 11 twice a week? We're not sure. We haven't seen it yet. But obviously, they've got a completely different lineup for the Conference League and the Premier League at the moment. I'd imagine they are. They're doing really well this season. I think they're probably going to play their best 11. But there are a few positions that they might rotate. I don't think Cole Palmer is one of them. I think he's going to play both. And I think he's a really, really good pick for this week. So he dropped 0.2 last week. I actually got him in early in anticipation for this Leicester game. I thought that looked good on paper. But obviously, just the 4 points. He was unlucky not to score. He had a goal blocked by Madueke off the line. He had 0.89 XG, so really was expected to score. Hit bonus, but yeah, not the best game. 7 goals, 5 assists though this season. I think he's a top captaincy shout this week. So if you are looking to go differential on the captain, I think this is a really good shout. Villa and Southampton. He has only really had 4 points, 3 points, and 6 points in his recent games, which is poor. But he is such a high ceiling player. He's got penalties. He's already had 4 attacking returns in a game twice this season. I think it was it 3 assists and a goal in one, and then 4 goals in a single game in another. He's explosive. Everything you want from a captain. And the fixtures look great. So I think Palmer is a really, really good captaincy shout this week. Jackson, 7 goals, 4 assists, is on really good form. But the 4 yellows is just still enough for me to dodge that. If he gets a yellow against Villa, he'll miss the prime Southampton game. So I just wouldn't go there personally. But if you want to take the risk, that's on you. Pedro Neto, I think you're really unlucky if you went there last week. He was missing through injury. They come out and said, hopefully he can be available for the next game. I don't know if that means the European game tonight or whether it means the Premier League fixture. But yeah, probably an avoid or a sell now. Wolves, back-to-back wins, no losses in 4 now, and they've scored 2 or more in their last 4 matches. On the up, and the next fixtures all look good. Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester, Man United. Cunha is the man of the moment, 4.8 million. Definitely not a bargain price anymore. He is right up there with the other strikers for both points and price now. So definitely isn't a bargain, but his form is incredible. He's going to get another 0.3 rise, I'd imagine. 7 goals, 3 assists for the season. But yeah, 20-point brace and assist in this Fulham game. And he's just playing with total confidence. He's actually not appearing very high up on some of these sort of charts for expected goals or predicted data. I do wonder whether that's just because he's banging goals from crazy positions. There's been a few long-range strikes from distance that had really small XG, and obviously Wolves haven't been the best team this season, so I think he might still be going under the radar on a lot of the sort of data models. But yeah, 20 points this week. Fantastic. 6 of his 13 matches have been double-digit returns as well. So almost half of his games he's hitting double digits. I think he's a really, really good buy this week. And dare I say it, captain pick. Bournemouth at home, Everton away. I don't mind that as a captain differential in game week 13. 90-minute man on penalties. And you'd have to say they're pretty good fixtures as well. If you did go for him, obviously you've got the option. You can hold him through the single game weeks, which include West Ham in 14, Ipswich in 15, and then a nice double game week in 16. Or you can sort of hop on, hop off to try and get the double game weeks. But with that Ipswich home fixture in 15, I'd probably be inclined to just hold him, I think. Dawson, if you went there, you're unlucky. Missing last minute with a virus. I think there's a couple of players missing with a virus this game week. But there's still budget options in defence with Totti Gomez, for example, Semedo. But they're both walking that yellow card at tightrope as well. So that's down to you if you want to take the chance. Brighton, really good fixture run. Actually continues from now all the way to about February. I was having a look at that, and I think Arsenal and Man United might be the only sort of top 6 sides that they face in that time. So yeah, I think the fixtures look really good for Brighton longer term. Obviously no European football, but that's not so much of a problem at the moment. No Carabao Cup, but we will have FA Cup arriving a bit later, at the start next year. João Pedro, 4.1 million. He's going to be the guy that's interesting everyone. So goal and an assist last week off the bench against Man City. And then got his start this week with another goal and assist. 64 minutes, so did get an early sub. I think he looks a great option for this week. He'll be playing in that Friday night fixture as well against Southampton. And we've seen Southampton playing out from the back, looking pretty terrible, conceding goals against Liverpool, playing out from the back, making silly mistakes. And Brighton's press looks pretty good. Also on penalties as well. And Southampton give away a pretty silly penalty in that game too. I think it looks good for João Pedro this week. Fulham away, obviously a tougher fixture, but the form that Brighton are in, I think this looks a really nice double game week. There are question marks over will he play twice or will he start twice in this game week? Playing twice a week, coming back from injury. But looking at the fixtures, it's a Friday night fixture, and then I think their match is on Thursday for the second fixture. So they've pretty much got a whole week, even though it is a double game week, 2 games in a week. They've got their first game on Friday, and then the next game isn't until Thursday. So it is basically a whole week in between those fixtures. So I think that Pedro will be fine for the 2 starts in this. He's had 4 double-digit returns from 6 matches, nearing 90 minutes in the opening fixtures of the season as well. So once he is back up to full form fitness, I imagine he'll be fine to play 90. I would be cautious on the captaincy. That's the only thing. I know I've said I expect him to start twice, but he hasn't been a 90-minute man since coming back from the injury. So if I was going captaincy, I think I would prefer to go for a Cunha or a Palmer or someone I've mentioned previously that you think are a little bit more solid for the minutes. He also does have the chance that sort of Brighton goal share seems to be split amongst more players than, say, like Palmer at Chelsea or Cunha at Wolves. So I think he's got that going against him a little bit with the captaincy as well. But yeah, still a really, really good pick this week. A couple others I like for Bruggen, 3.3 if you want a mid-range goalkeeper. But I'd probably still take the Forster route. Stupinian, 2.3 million. Nice enabler in defence. The fixtures look good going forward. And then Matoma as well. Got a goal, 9 points in that last game, but 3.7 million. I think there's better options. Brentford, one of the sort of differential teams that we could capitalise on for the Premier League double. So best home record in the Premier League, and they've got Leicester at home next. So that could be a nice fixture as long as the Ruud van Nistelrooy new manager bounce doesn't hit hard. Possibly a harder fixture in the second one, away to Villa. The 0-0 against Everton will definitely put some players off, going for the likes of Mbuemo, but he has still had a really good season. 4.3 million. I think you would have looked at this a while ago and thought this is a prime double for Mbuemo. It's just the previous 3 matches. He's only accumulated like 11 points from 3 games getting 1 assist, but he has got the potential. 8 goals, 1 assist for the season. Fine form earlier on. Pens, some set pieces as well. I think this is a nice differential move. If people in your mini leagues are already on Cunha, Pedro, for example, and you want someone different, I do think Mbuemo could be a decent option for this week. I think I would prefer Cunha and Pedro, but yeah, if you fancy going for someone a little bit different, I do think he is a good option. Vissa, I mentioned I liked him over previous game weeks. I probably would pass. Now, got an early sub in this one for Thiago, their new signing, who got injured straight away at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, I do think that Thiago probably is going to start to get worked in there in that striker spot. Maybe not straight away, but eventually. Van der Berg, 1.8 million. Now, obviously, I don't think he's a great option, but again, for that enabling price, I think that's quite good, and he'll get a 0.3 rise. Pinnock at 2.4 has got some attacking threat, but I think I'd prefer someone like a Stupinian from Brighton. West Ham, so bad fixture against Arsenal in game week 13, but then Leicester away looks okay, and the run looks good after that. So Wolves, Bournemouth, Brighton, and Southampton. Form has been poor this season, but back-to-back clean sheets now, and possibly their best performance of the season against Newcastle. Maybe they're on the up. Bowen, 5.3 is expensive. But he did score against Arsenal twice last season. 4 goals, 4 assists this season, and 12 bonus points. He got 13 points and the maximum bonus against Newcastle. Grabbed an assist, got tackles as well, and a shot on target. It's a nice differential, but I think there are better players this week on better form and at a better price point than 5.3. But I would be interested to see how he gets on in this run, and then maybe look at getting him in for game week 16 potentially. Brighton at home, at Southampton away. He could be a good one for that week. Emerson 2.1 or Kilman 2.2. Now, just because they got back-to-back clean sheets doesn't mean that they're going to carry on. But if you are looking for an enabler at that price point and you want to still carry on building a bit of budget, both of them are going to get 0.3 rises. And then Fabianski as well. I mentioned I probably would go Forster now, but 2.5 million Fabianski, back-to-back clean sheets, but you'll get more fixtures out of Forster, it looks like. On to my team update then. So we still have some games to play. Still got the Spurs fixture, the United fixture, and Chelsea to play tonight, although I don't think Chelsea's going to make much of a difference. Currently on 131 points for the game week, 1,504 points total. Overall rank is, I've left it off the screen. Overall rank is 94 on the leaderboard. Started the week at 69th, went as low as 57th. But that Liverpool clean sheet and the Villa clean sheet last night has sent me back up to 94th, which is a bit annoying. I thought I'd got away with it with Salah keeping quiet, but yeah, those clean sheets did hurt my rank last night. But 94th, still decent. I've got 3 Man United players to play this evening, and Kulusevski hopefully as well. So could still get a green arrow this evening. Transfers this week. So sells out for Muric, gained me 3 points. But Solanke has outscored Palmer by 4 points so far, and still has another game to play. I thought I'd go early on that Palmer move for Leicester. But yeah, not a great performance from him in that one. Very close to getting a goal, but wasn't to be. I just didn't think that Solanke would really do anything against Manchester City. So -1 on those transfers at the moment, but still pretty happy with how my team's looking. Muric got the 2 Man United players to play this evening and Vardio in the middle. I think I'm going to be changing one of these defenders this week, but I'm going to wait and see how these Man United matches play out before making a decision on those. I've got Saka with 30 points. Really happy with how he's been since bringing him back in. Bruno Fernandes, 3, a little bit disappointing, but still a game to play. Foden, underwhelming. 10 points, though, isn't the worst return, to be honest with you. So I'm going to be keeping Foden. Kulusevski, I've been thinking of taking him out this week. So, of course, he got a return against Man City. Probably is going to get a return tonight against Roma just to make my decision even harder. But he is someone I'm considering moving. Cole Palmer, 4 points. Got him in early. It is what it is. I want him for this week for sure. So, he's staying. Haaland was my captain pick this week. So, 44 points with the armband on. He has outscored Salah But I must say, I was concerned after that first Premier League matches. He's sort of dug it out in that game against Feyenoord. So seemed to have done okay for the armband. Would have been a nice max captain this week. Would have fallen on Bukayo Saka. But I've got my eye on potentially doing that for game week 13. So what are my plans for this week? So I want to take a striker punt. I've mentioned Cunha. I've mentioned João Pedro. And also Kai Havertz has been of interest. I'm probably going to bring one of these guys in for Kulusevski. Maybe regardless of what he does this evening. We'll have to wait and see. But to reach any of those players for Kulusevski, I'm going to have to make a defensive downgrade. So in my head, initially, it was going to be probably Dalot that was going to get downgraded to make way. But then Vardiol doing a bit, well, more than a bit poor this week, has also sort of had me toying around with this team to see what I could do if I took Vardiol out as well. So some of my options, so João Pedro could come in, and then I could have moved either Mazraoui or Dalot down to De Ligt, which I thought was fine. I still keep the United player, but I get a cheaper United player in there. But I've also had a look, and I could do João Pedro in and Jurrien Timber in for Arsenal and get the price rises out of both of them by taking Vardiol out. Obviously, it's going to save me a bit more money. But I do think I'm going to want Vardiol back in at some point. Cunha gets a little bit tougher. So if I want Cunha, obviously he's a lot more expensive than João Pedro. So if I went Cunha, I'd probably need to make Vardiol De Ligt, which means having 3 United defenders, or I'd have to go real budget. So look to take out a Dalot or Mazraoui to maybe someone like an Estupinian or one of those cheaper players. But then I'm adding 2 non-European players. So they will double this week, but then it doesn't set me up as nice for sort of game week 14 and 15. And then I did look at doing Havertz and Timber in to sort of capitalise on Arsenal's good form, which I liked. But if I did Vardiol and Kulusevski, that would leave me 0.2 short. So I think Havertz and Timber are out of the equation. Maybe I'll go sort of Pedro or Cunha this week, and then maybe chain one of those 2 Kai Havertz for the European double game week. I quite like the idea of doing that to sort of capitalise on the extra fixtures. I do think Havertz will go back to playing 290s over Gabriel Jesus. So this is how my team's looking currently. I've stuck João Pedro in there for now ahead of Kulusevski, but I haven't made the second transfer yet until I see what happens with United this evening. So obviously Pedro in would need me having to find 0.7 million with my defensive move, bringing down either Mazraoui, Vardiol or Dalot. But I really like how this looks. I think I've got really, really good attacking options. So Saka, Bruno, Foden, Palmer, Haaland, Salah and Pedro, all with pretty decent fixtures, all really high ceiling players, and a lot of really good captaincy options as well, which is why I'm considering maybe using Max Captain for this week, because I think there's a lot of players that could go off there. If I wasn't using it, I think I'd go Palmer. Aston Villa home, Southampton away. I think he looks like the best option, but yeah, there's potential for a lot of these players to go off in this game week. I'll quickly talk about boosters this week because I like the look of Max Captain. I've also been asked a lot about goal bonus, and I mean, I've just said I've got a lot of players there who I think are going to do well this week for attacking fixtures. So goal bonus obviously is a really, really good option as well. Either if you don't have Max Captain or you fancy using goal bonus as well. Obviously, you get the extra point per goal or a few points per goal. But the reason I think it doesn't look as good for goal bonus as it would maybe Max Captain is because of the uncertainty over the captain. So with the goal bonus, you obviously get 9 points a goal. But to really take advantage of that, you want your captain to go off because they get the double points as well as that. And if you are unsure on the captain, would you rather not play the goal bonus on a week where you feel a little bit more sure on your captain? For example, if you stuck the armband on Haaland and played your goal bonus, you may get goals elsewhere. but I feel like you're missing out a little bit on the captaincy haul combined with the goal bonus. So that's why I think max captain probably a little bit more favourable than goal bonus. But even 12th man is viable if you've got a 12th man. Questions about Cole Palmer this week. So obviously got a drop last week. He's probably going to get a price drop again. You could 12th man Palmer in, get him for the double game week. And then when he singles next week, you haven't got to take him out again. And you obviously don't get the effect of the price drop either on your team. You could do it with João Pedro. You could do it with Cunha, 12th man them in so that you can take him out next week without using a transfer. But if you bought him in as a transfer, you'd get a really nice price rise out of those two. So it doesn't feel as good, but it's still an option. And of course, if there's just any other player that you can't quite fit in budget-wise, like maybe if you haven't got Saka this week and you can't really afford to get him in, he could be an option as the 12th man. And that's my rough thoughts on boosters and the captaincy. But of course, if you've got any other questions, feel free to drop a comment below. Do check out our latest episode of the Dream Team Tonic podcast. There'll be a link in the description below for that. Good luck for Game Week 13, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.